There are some major developments that I need to get into today, and I want to begin first with what's happening with Russia and Europe. So important, so key to understand. The second thing is the energy crunch. Of course, these two link together and affect you directly. The third thing is the broken chain, the supply chain. That is, I've got all of that and more. Let's go. Okay, let's begin here with this Bloomberg article. Russia signals Europe won't get extra gas without Nord Stream 2. Kremlin seeks swift approval for pipeline in return for gas. You know what's happening right now in Europe. The prices are going sky high, and I've been showing you that and documenting it all along. People are paying prices they never have before. Gazprom preparing new pipeline for use, limiting other routes. So they're kind of making it seem as though this has to happen in order for Europeans to pay a reasonable amount for their energy. Russia is signaling that it won't go out of its way to offer European consumers extra gas to ease the current energy crisis unless it gets something in return, regulatory approval to start shipments through the controversial Nord Stream 2 pipeline. We'll see what actually happens, but it is quite clear that there is a back and forth happening, geopolitical tensions that continue to escalate. But quite frankly, the people are paying the price today. All right, they do get into some more details, and you could see the EU supplies. Gazprom's flows to the EU have been lowered year on year since August. This is month after month, and you're just looking at this right now at a time in which they need it the most. As surging fuel costs have caused increased economic havoc, pressure has grown on Russia, Europe's largest supplier, to pump more. Extra Russian gas is seen as the main way to avoid an even deeper supply crunch in the middle of winter, but of course the two sides not seeing eye to eye. I want to know what you think about this. Should it go through? Should it happen? What are your thoughts? Put them in the comments below. Let's have that conversation. Take a look. I pulled this one up for you. Key pipeline gas export routes from Russia to Europe. And if I pull out the highlighter, I can just show you this is the Nord Stream 2, and essentially this is a very important route if it happens. It looks like it probably will, but usually the two sides have to make it seem like there's a back and forth. You can look at these other ones that are here also, and each one of these has its own level of importance, but certainly this one here to Europe at this critical juncture is very important for all sides. Russia natural gas supplies to Europe via the Yamal pipeline. That one is down significantly. Haven't seen this type of drawdown in this period for quite a while, it seems. Now, look at this article out of the AP. Energy crunch hits global recovery as winter approaches. This is what I said when we're talking about the winter is coming. That can mean many things, of course, but in this case here, what we're talking about is literally winter arriving, and at the same time, supplies are falling, inventories are falling, and the supply chain looks like it's going to get tighter as we move into the end of the year. Power shortages are turning out streetlights and shutting down factories in China. The poor in Brazil are choosing between paying for food or electricity. German corn and wheat farmers can't find fertilizer made using natural gas, and fears are rising that Europe will have to ration electricity if it's a cold winter. I mean, you really have not heard of these things. You would think we were in the middle of the Great Depression. The world is gripped by an energy crunch, a fierce squeeze on some of the key markets for natural gas and oil and other fuels that keep the economy running and the lights and the heat on in the homes. Heading into winter, that means higher utility bills, more expensive products, and growing concern about how energy consuming Europe and China are ever going to recover. This is something that people should be aware of. This cannot be resolved overnight. So these price pressures are still in play and seem to be going to continue for the foreseeable future. The biggest squeeze is on natural gas in Europe, which imports 90% of its supply, largely from Russia. and where prices have risen to 5 times what they were at the start of the year, from 95 euros to about 19 euros per megawatt hour to 95 euros from 19. I mean, that's just crazy to think about. They're discussing what's going on in Italy, and even the basic essentials becoming much more expensive. And guess what's going to happen to their exports? That's right, more expensive as well. From October, we are starting to suffer a lot. Now, they get into a lot of these details in here, talking about the fact that, hey, Brent crude oil already at $85 a barrel, heading seemingly towards 100. And they do get into more of these really, I would say, key details, but we don't have the time to do a deep dive. And that's something that I'm going to be changing, by the way, in probably the next month or so, where I'm going to spend time in separate videos that I will be doing deep dives on issues like this one you see here. I'm going to have it all scripted out, written out. I'm going to hit all the right points, and I will bring that to you in the near future, so stay tuned. Look at the stockpiles. US propane stockpiles have declined, and if you look closely, you'll see this black line much lower than in previous years. So the black line being, of course, 2021, and just compare it to all the rest, 2020, 2019, depending on which we look at, it is significantly higher. And that doesn't go very well with what we have in place today. You see the prices being directly affected by it. Shouldn't take a genius to figure that one out. UK to put nuclear power at the heart of net zero emissions strategy. This is the direction that the UK is going, and many other governments as well. That's why there is this huge push for uranium at this time. It isn't just Sprott that had created their ETF of it, but you've got even Kazakhstan creating their own. This is the whole point, that more money is flowing to these. And I hope you appreciate me digging up this kind of information and how useful it can be to you as an investor, or just for your own general knowledge. If you appreciate that, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Right now, Europeans are paying some of the highest energy prices on record. Russia wants their Nord Stream 2 pipeline in operation as soon as possible. As a result of everything that has been going on, it looks like some commodities could surge to record highs and beyond in the coming months. So let's take a look at what's been happening here. Procter & Gamble to raise prices on more staples. Company says the cost of materials and freight jumped more than expected, cutting into the profits. So what do they have to do? Of course, whenever the profit takes a hit, that means you, the customer, have to pay more. And while you can say that you're going to shop locally, these products here are, of course, part of these big conglomerates. It's hard to avoid companies like Procter & Gamble and Eli Lilly and all these different huge conglomerates that basically own them all. All these household products that you've got are owned by very few companies. Procter & Gamble is raising prices on household staples as costs for freight and raw materials rise faster than the consumer product giant anticipated. The maker of Tide detergent and Gillette razors said it would start charging more for certain products. This means you've got to pay more. That means your disposable income starts to shrink. And while, hey, it might be $5 here and $2 there, that does certainly add up, right? Take a look at this. And by the way, if you have seen these prices, particular products that we're talking about here, increase in price, put that down in the comments. All of this information, remember, it's not just me speaking to you. This is us as a community. That's why this is different than all of the rest, okay? We do not anticipate any easing of costs. This is coming directly from Procter & Gamble. We continue to see increases week after week, though at a slowing pace. So the inflation is still there. It is still putting pressure on their input costs. And understand, it's not just because of the shipping. Imagine the contents of the container. Let's say it's Tide. Whatever the contents are, those have all become more expensive. The plastic of that particular container or glass or whatever it is actually more expensive too. Each component has become more expensive for one reason or another, and that has not let up at all. Okay, you could just look through all of these. It's mostly talking about that, Procter & Gamble, what they're dealing with, but it's just one company of many out there that are dealing with the same kind of situation. And quite frankly, they're not going to cut into their profits. They've made that very clear. People are hoarding. That's right. You, the individual, you're the problem. Food shortages are the next supply chain crunch. According to the mainstream, because you want to have some of that rice and beans and all these things stocked up so that you can take care of yourself and your family. Oh, that's right. You're the problem with the supply chain. Can you believe it? Grocers warn of intermittent delays across product categories. So that's essentially the main point of this article and the reason why I wanted to bring it to you. I never imagined that we'd be here in October 2021 talking about the supply chain problems, but it is a reality. Any given day, we're going to have something missing in our stores, and it's across all categories. They do talk about this further along in here, just showing you some of the empty shelves. This is not just one individual, and I had heard one of my subscribers brought it to me saying, oh, the fact checkers said that this is not true. Those pictures were taken out of context and so on. But we have people who are documenting this all over the place. Is it consistent? No, absolutely not. Some areas, totally stocked, totally fine. Other places, it's not good. That's why I ask you to share that information so we can clarify this directly from the grassroots and we don't have to rely on the mainstream. There's two levels to the money GPS. One comes from the mainstream and one comes from the grassroots. So I give you whatever information I personally have, but that's why sharing in the comments is so key. Look, they just get into it. If you want to understand it a little bit more on this level, this is actually quite a detailed report here out of Bloomberg. Supply chain delays could soon leave wine glasses empty. All those wine drinkers out there, yeah, apparently there's going to be a less of a access to wine if that's a concern for you. And I thought it was interesting that it's not the grapes that are the problem, it's the packaging. So which companies are going to pivot? Are they going to choose another type of packaging, containers, whatever is the issue, not just with wine? But that's something that I want to see, because those that do react really quickly, like look at all those restaurants that were shut down. And then they said, oh, we're going to be a catering service now. Or now we're going to be a food market. So they quickly said, uh-oh, we're in trouble. Let's readjust. They stayed in business. Shipping containers that spent weeks abroad, ships stuck at ports, are now being dumped in nearby neighborhoods. I couldn't believe this. This is a terribly filmed video, but the link will be in the description as always. They're literally putting them on this random street. If you live in this particular area, it looks like, I'm assuming out of the Long Beach, LA area, Anaheim Street. If you know this street, please let me know, because I need to verify this. Just look at this. It's a bunch of neighbors very upset in a nonstop situation. I got to go to work 6:30 a.m. There's a trailer blocking my driveway, so I couldn't get out. With no driver in the trailer, we would just honk and honk. It's crazy. Right now, with the ports and everything going on over there, we are stuck with the containers, having to bring them all to the yard. We only have so much space. They're sitting in the street for 15, 20 minutes. Sometimes they just unload the trailer in the street with no front part of it, and they just leave it there. I mean, think about how crazy this is. You never heard of anything like that. And there's a suggestion right now, out of the hill. Are supply chain disruptions the beginning of the end of globalization? I don't think that's the case, but I hope the silver lining in all of this is that we do choose more local. We start to build semiconductors in our own countries. We start to look inside of what we have, the resources and the individuals and entrepreneurship available to us locally, and we start doing things that, quite frankly, I think is a lot more intelligent. Now, let's take a look at this one. Lazy crane operators making $250,000 a year, exacerbating port crisis, according to the truckers. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I had read a comment on my channel about this, and that's why I love the comments so much. Look, is it true? Could it really be that it's the lazy crane operators making a great living, making it worse? Well, I'm not so sure. The Washington Examiner gets into the details of it. I think there's a lot going on. Okay, it's not just one thing. America isn't running out of everything just because of supply chain crisis. America is running out of everything because Americans are buying so much stuff. Again, putting the pressure on the individual, saying it's your fault for hoarding. It's your fault for preparing. I'm not sure that's the case, but that's what they're saying. Grocery store shelves bare. These products may be hard to find amid supply chain disruptions. One of those is diapers. So I know that might be a problem for some people out there, and I believe that Amazon sellers selling cloth diapers are probably going to do very, very well if they haven't already. Diapers they're mentioning in here, there's a lot of processed food and so on. I don't think some people are going to care about that. But again, the magical toilet paper apparently is on that list. This is what I wanted to talk about. I had so much more, but I'm going to do deep dives. Stay tuned for those, okay? Food prices, and let me know, by the way, if you want me to do deep dives. Food prices will go up tremendously. Billionaire supermarket owner. Food prices will rise 10% in the next 2 months. I told you, as we go towards the end of the year, understand that you're going to see these prices rise of all different types of things just because the seasonality. We move in, there's more shipments happening. Q4, it's always busy, always. And now, what's going on? We're getting all of these issues piling up on top of each other, okay? It is just unbelievable. That's where we are at today. I think the message is that we've got to go forward with a local, as best as we can, local production, local supply chain, as much local as we possibly can to mitigate some of this in the future. If you are not already an insider, you've got to be, because that's the way I can get to you directly. We've got thousands of people on here. I email you the video of the day 5 days a week. Check it out at this card or themoneygps.com. And if you haven't already, you've got to support the channel. Click the thumbs up, because that means I will be more likely to end up in your recommended videos. So definitely hit that thumbs up. If you haven't seen this video yet, you've got to check it out. Click it and I'll see you there.